go through a scenario with Sandra. And as I'm going through this, I want you to just take a mental inventory, or maybe if you have a piece of paper, make a little tick, as to some of the things that might apply to you as well. Okay? So we've got Sandra. This is actually a real person. I've changed her name, but this is a real case scenario. We've got Sandra. She's a stay-at-home mother of 2 kids. One's a newborn and one's a 4-year-old. She's environmentally minded. She recycles. She drives a hybrid car. She does what she can. She's health-minded. She considers herself a healthy person, constantly thinks about a lot of these things that we're going to be covering. And this is sort of her day-to-day life. She hears her son crying and gets up from her new memory foam mattress. What was that? Lifts her son David out of his bassinet. He begins suckling on the healthiest food, breast milk. And for breakfast, she makes pancakes on her Teflon pan for her 4-year-old Jenny. You guys seeing any toxins in the environment so far? Okay, so where are those toxins? We've got flame retardants in the memory foam mattress. Flame retardants have a very interesting convoluted history where there's a big issue with fires when people were smoking a lot. Right? Cigarettes cause a lot of fires. And the cigarette companies were told, okay, you got to make self-extinguishing cigarettes because we have a lot of problems here, and if you don't, there's going to be more fires, there's going to be more deaths. That's the regulation we're setting. Now they had so much money and so much lobbying power that they actually flipped it around and said, no, the problems aren't with the cigarettes, the problems are with the materials that get caught on fire, right? And they didn't want to affect the taste of their cigarettes and the addictiveness. So they actually succeeded in getting companies to put flame retardants in all their products. That's how we got into the flame retardant mess. So these are PBDEs. Her son's bassinet or mattress, PBDEs, and then more PBDEs in the breast milk because the breast milk concentrates toxins. If the mother's toxic, it'll get all concentrated in the breast milk. And then PFOA in the Teflon pans, which has an active ingredient, C8. Has anyone seen the Netflix documentary on Teflon? No one? It's terrifying. I recommend you check it out. It's just, it's crazy. And I'll be talking about that again briefly in a bit. Okay, moving right along, she slices strawberries and cantaloupe on top of, on top and adds some syrup to the pancakes. A piece of strawberry falls on the floor and the ants start to enjoy it. Of course, they spray the house for termites and ants, once a year. And then Sandra notices a burning smell and realizes, oh no, the pan is smoking and smells more like chemicals than pancakes. So strawberries, one of the most heavily sprayed fruits on the planet, tons of pesticides on those things. When we have things that are off-gassing like flame retardants, carpets, upholstered chairs, paint, anything, it can go up in the air and it can become toxic dust, especially heavy metals. Like blinds that are constantly being hit by the sun, they slowly decompose over time, and then we have toxic dust in our home. Termiticides, that's an obvious one, and PFOA from the Teflon pan. See, Teflon is great until it's heated. So it's not a problem before that. In fact, there's Teflon in a lot of toilets because it's nonstick. Right? So once you heat that stuff up, that's when it really becomes a problem. Okay, 1 hour later, Jenny is dropped off at school where about 10 cars are idling. We all know the drop-off situation. As Sandra waves goodbye, Jenny is already playing on the new pirate ship playground. After the drop-off, Sandra runs errands, dry cleaning, David's moisturizers, hairdresser for dyed roots, fills up gas, Happy Meal with toy for Jenny's lunch. Okay, so we have carbon monoxide being released, formaldehyde, benzene, all these really nice things coming out of the car exhaust. I bike to work almost every day unless it's pouring or snowing, and I get a beautiful dose of these every single day. I can also smell people's air fresheners in their car. I can smell people's perfumes as I bike by on the sidewalk. It's just a crazy cocktail of scents on my way to and from work. Phthalates on the playgrounds, these are plasticizers. They're used in anything that's plastic. Dry cleaning has perks. Moisturizers, lots of parabens, dyed roots or hair coloring have a whole bunch of chemicals in them. In fact, women who dye their hair have a 3 times increased risk of getting lupus. I'm actually working with a client right now who has multiple chemical sensitivities. When she goes into the dollar store, her nervous system freaks out. She gets tingling and numbness and can't go into places that are off-gassing like that. And we sort of cleaned up her life. She's changed her jobs. She doesn't go into those stores. She eats organic. But the last thing on the list is hair dye. And we're just trying to kind of work on that one. And then Happy Meal, you know, those plastic toys with the BPA. Okay? When Sandra arrives home, the lawn company is finishing spraying weed killer. David and Jenny take a nap on her new bed while the dry cleaning hangs in the nearby closet. Sandra calls the dentist because one of her amalgam fillings is bothering her, and she manages to get a noodle soup cooked in the microwave for lunch in its disposable bowl. Okay? So I think you're getting the idea. We're just surrounded by toxins, right? And I'm sure some of you have been exposed to some of these as well. Okay, finally, she cleans the bathroom while the kids are sleeping because one of the cleaners says hazardous to humans and domestic animals. The fumes make her feel woozy. I remember when I was in university, I lived in a house with 3 other guys, and I was on bathroom duty one day. And I was just like in there with the closed door, using all the chemicals, and I couldn't like taste for 2 days after cleaning in that bathroom. So this is the tally. And this is just a small percentage of what's possibly in that environment, right? This is just a short list. And how did we get into this mess? So we've been Homo sapiens for a very long time, right? Evolution. 2.6 million years ago, we started as Homo sapiens. And there weren't many toxins in our environment. What types of toxins would have been present then? Any ideas?
Methane.
Pardon me?
Methane.
Methane? Yeah, maybe very, very small amount from your neighbor who just passed gas.
Metals from Earth.
Maybe a small amount of metals, slight radioactivity from the ground even. The sun, right, would have been somewhat toxic maybe. Smoke from a fire. Not a lot, right? And this is what our detoxification systems were built on, right? Our genes don't change too much over time. It takes thousands and thousands of years for genetic mutations to happen and then for them to stick with the species. So then in the 1700s, chemical experimentation really began to take off. And then in the 1940s, we reach a whole other level, the Industrial Revolution, big factories, factory farming, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. I have a picture of explosives there because a lot of fertilizers are derived from explosives. If you remember the Oklahoma City building bombing, that was just a truck full of fertilizer. And then present day, we've introduced 80,000 chemicals into our environment over the past 100 years. And 1,000 to 3,000 new ones get introduced into our environment every single year. So we're swimming in this soup. A few facts here. In a study conducted by the EPA, benzene derivatives were found in 98% of subjects. The average woman uses 12 different personal care products per day. This exposes them to 160 chemical ingredients daily, and I would say it's actually similar for men too, with all the sprays and creams and lotions and shaving creams and shampoos and all that. 75% of all brand name cosmetics contain phthalates, chemicals that have been strongly linked to hormone disruption. So one of the issues with a lot of these chemicals is that they look like the hormones in our body. they have a very similar function and receptor site, but many, many, many times stronger than our endogenous hormones, up to 1,000 times stronger. If we look at the body and measure how much estrogen is in the body at any one given time, it's about 1 drop in an Olympic-sized pool. So a lot of these chemicals, they don't even need to be in huge quantities to have that endocrine disrupting effect. And we're going to really see how that can affect fat storage and fat production. There are over 80,000 chemicals approved in the US. This is one of the worst chemicals in our world right now. Do you know what the active ingredient in that is? Glyphosate. The CDC named it a possible carcinogen in 2012, which means it probably is a carcinogen, right? They're always a little bit hesitant on their statements. This is the most widely used weed killer on our food. If you're eating conventional food, you're consuming glyphosate on a daily basis, for sure, 100%. Okay? They actually use it to kind of ripen foods near the end of their growing season. They spray a whole bunch on there, not even to kill the weeds, but just to ripen them because they grow a little bit faster. It does all sorts of crazy stuff. One of the things it does is it actually takes the place of certain amino acids. And then when you mess up protein structures in the body, you can mess up everything. And some of it's not even reversible. Low levels of lead exposure can result in serious mental and behavioral problems. Lead's most insidious effects is its poisoning of the developing nervous system. And that's why we have unleaded gasoline now, right? Because it was a huge issue and it really messes with the development of the neurological system in young babies and kids. People who have trouble detoxifying are more prone to cancer for obvious reasons here. Now, this is a study that was done with 10 random Americans. What they did was they took a sample of their blood and they wanted to see what chemicals were in there and what those chemicals were and what the possible implications of those chemicals are. So the writing's quite small here, but they found pesticides, they found fire retardants, electrical insulator byproducts, garbage incineration byproducts, for a total of 287 chemicals. Now the crazy thing about this study is that it was the blood of the umbilical cord of babies. So this is what we're getting exposed to even before we come into the world. It's crazy, right? So we really got to be vigilant in how to move these things through the body, which of course I'm not going to leave you hanging, we're going to get there. So this is my little man. He's 2 in a couple months now. This is a couple years ago. But I chose to bring him into this world, and being a conscious parent and trying to avoid all the toxins and as many as I can is not an easy task, right? You constantly have to be on guard. But I chose to bring him in because I think he can thrive in this world, and I think we can all thrive in this world as well. So moving on to what makes us fat. Okay. What makes us fat? What causes obesity? Any ideas? Malnourishment, okay. Yeah, so lack of vitamins and minerals. Sedentary lifestyle. Stress. Sugar, absolutely.
Oh,
So
yeah, sugar.
these can definitely make you fat, right? I think we're all in agreement on that one. Everyone is on the same page, even people who may not be in the health world. Okay.
Toxins are stored in the fat cells, are they not?
Pardon me?
The toxins are stored.
They sure are, yeah. We can talk more about that later. This definitely makes you fat, right? Sedentary lifestyle, we gotta move. We're always meant to move. The body needs to move, and that's how we use up calories as well. But I think what a lot of people don't understand, and why you're here today, is that these things can make you fat too. Teflon pans. How many of you use a Teflon pan? Thank you for your honesty. Maybe not after today, right? Okay, there's a lot of other great options out there. you know the new car smell? Brominated hydrocarbons. Those are flame retardants. Some people love that smell, right? That messes with your thyroid. It displaces iodine. It does a whole lot of nasty things to your nervous system as well. And it makes us fat. Plastic bottles, right? Phthalates, plasticizers. These are all what we call obesogens in these products. And aptly named so, they cause your body to make fat and store fat in these chemical products. So I think it's pretty clear that diet and movement are critical for weight loss. Right? They're key factors. You get a good bang for your buck most of the time. But this is kind of the missing piece right here that a lot of people are totally ignoring. They're going to the gym, they're drinking out of a plastic bottle, they're wearing plastic clothes, they're working out on a plastic mat, they're getting in their car to go back home. You know, maybe it's a brand new car, they're getting the brominated hydrocarbons coming in. Then they're going home and they're like, okay, I had a great workout, I need to now cook my nice omelet to get my protein up, and they do it on their Teflon pan, and what's going on here? Right? It's like swimming upstream. It's working against them. So we've got this class of chemicals known as obesogens, and this was sort of discovered or coined by this guy Bruce Blumberg, 2016. And he defined it as a chemical that inappropriately stimulates adipogenesis and fat storage, and it can include way more than 20 chemicals. We know definitively that there's at least 20 chemicals that have this effect, and we still have to investigate the other 80,000, right, to see if they can do this as well. So how did this all begin? How did he make this discovery? It's a bit of an interesting story. So there's this chemical called tributyl-10, which they use on the hull of ships. It's an organotin compound, and it's also known as bottom paint. So they put it there because it prevents like barnacles and plants and stuff from growing on the hull of the ship. And when you have huge ships with a bunch of barnacles on the bottom, it really affects their bottom line, right? It really slows them down. So it's a really important thing for industry to use these chemicals.